All right, guys, it's Philip, it's Toon Tactics, it's summer signings, it's recruitment, it's the approach to the Newcastle United transfer window. We're going to get right into it. Let's kick off with this quote from our very own CEO, Darren Eales. He set out a vision, essentially, for what Newcastle is going to be, I guess, the next phase, and it's going to dictate for us exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's show around transfers, signings, recruitment, and priority positions. So Mr. Ill says, and this is about 3-4 days ago, we're going to build a result-driven, world-class, sustainable organization that consistently achieves top 6 status for men's and women's teams and wins major trophies within the next 5 years. So as we're talking about transfers, as we're talking about recruitment, we've talked about the owners, we've talked about the directors of football, Eddie Howe. Now we're going to talk about what that approach is going to be, who Newcastle are going to sign, what is our priority positions right here, right now in this episode. So let's look into it. I've set up a little table before we do anything. Essentially, before we go into bringing players in, we've got to figure out who we're going to take out, essentially, which players we're going to bring out. So I've set out this table talking about that goes from strongly keep players, so players that are definitely going to stay at the club, to all the way down to strongly sell. And I'm going to focus in on the sell guys, on the guys that I think are ready to be sold, are eligible for it because they have economic value, and that would help the team. I've set out, and you guys can see on the left of the screen, I've got the owners. We've talked about how the budget that they've probably set out is from 100 to 150 million, that they're going to need to make sales about 50 million and plus, and they need a director of football or directors of football in order to make that happen. So I've got Paul Mitchell and Phil Giles, who will be my dream team, together with Eddie Howe, who also will be looking for quality of player and would want to keep the guys who have leadership qualities and who are good for the overall team. So as you guys can see, and I'm going to focus in on this guy, on the people that I'm looking to sell, that I think Newcastle owners look to sell in order to make those sales of £50 million plus. And I've got Callum Wilson, Miguel Almiron, Sean Longstaff, and Jamal Lascelles. And according to transferwindow.com, the combined sale of these guys would get about £55.7 million in sales, which gives us the economic value that we need, the economic finance that we need in order to make space, wages, and financial in terms of money, transfer kitty wise, for new signings. However, we do miss, and we do detract the minuses. We miss out on their leadership, on experience, and some homegrown talent. So who Newcastle bring in is absolutely vital. So let's look at the current squad as it is. And I want people to remember that, not to look at it as what it is now with 14 plus injuries plus Lewis Miley, but what the squad looked like right at the beginning of the season. You guys can see our front forward of Isak, Barnes, and Golden, a midfield of Joe Linton, Gomeres, and Tonali, and people were saying, we know, is this one of the best midfields in the league? A defense of Dan Burn, Botman, Shaw, Trippier, and Nick Pope. And obviously, and we had a bench of Livramento, Willock, and all those guys, Wilson. We had a very, very, very good team indeed. However, injuries had shattered that. So now going forward, we can see the holes in our team. And I'm going to focus in on this. I'm going to go back to this original screen when we're talking about priority positions for our team. And I'm going to look at, as you might not be able to see, I'm going to widen it. I'm going to focus in on Man City and Arsenal squad. And I'm going to look at their value, especially Arsenal in the moment. But right now it's Man City. And to kind of make the point about what priority positions are. If you look at the Man City squad, according to transferwindow.com, from attack to defense, the value is balanced. Obviously, there's an exceedingly high rate for an attack because of Erling Haaland, but you can see that for the value of the squad is balanced. There is quality and value in attack, in midfield and defenders, where the players are 300 million plus, and a goalkeeper of 49 million. So that's City. Look at Arsenal, who are currently second, I think. You can see the value from attack to defense, 300 million plus. That's value in itself. That shows you that there's balance in quality and in value of that squad, and a goalkeeper of 60 million plus. Go to Newcastle. Now, if we go to Newcastle, where from a value point of view, from a financial point of view, for squad value point of view, where are Newcastle? Attack is 200 million plus. Midfield is about 250 million plus. Defense is 140 million. Our defense is 100 million pounds less than our midfield and attack. And you can already see where I'm going. I think defense is our priority position that we need to upgrade. And the goalkeeper section is 20 million, 22 million, and 20 million of that is Nick Pope. And that lets you know that for me, when I'm looking at our team, defense and goalkeeping section is where the bulk of our transfer money should go to. Now, it doesn't mean that the midfield shouldn't be upgraded. It doesn't mean that the defense, that the attack shouldn't be upgraded. But in terms of actually adding balance and quality throughout our team, the defense and attack is where we are at. Again, going back to our current squad, I've put where each player in each position in here, so folks can see where the gaps are or where the drop off in quality is. When we start, and this is the beginning of the season, before Tonali got suspended, before Nick Pope got taken off due to injury, we had Joe Linton for Barnes up front, Wilson for Isak up front, Almiron and Jacob Murphy for Gordon up front, and obviously that's where the drop off really is. Now you can see the drop off in quality from there. Elliot Anderson for Willock. Again, some people rate Anderson. I think he's still got a lot to prove. Would he get into any top six side? Already a drop off there from Joe Willock. Even within Joe Willock, there might be not be, apart from maybe Tottenham. I don't see him getting into any other top six side, even though I love him. Bruno Gomes is our outstanding quality. And to back him up, we have Lewis Miley. I think Lewis Miley can be a generational talent, but as Eddie Howe said, he's 17 years old. He can't be the backup for us. We need to get another midfielder in. And then we've got Tonali and not Sean Longstaff as backup. And I do rate Sean Longstaff, but he's not of the quality that's going to take us, as what Darren Ill says, into becoming a top six side that's winning major trophies. And I think that's where we're at. Defense tells its own story. The only real backup and strength we have is between Trippier and Livramento. Shaw, Lascelles, Lewis Holster has got a lot to prove. Dan Burn, as much as I love him, isn't the quality that we need. Botman is out for the next 9 months, so we need another defender. From Nick Pope to Dubravka, the drop in quality is significant. Dubravka does not like to come off his line, and this causes massive gaps in our defense and our attack, and we need another number one goalkeeper. Speaking of players to bring in, and this is where we're at, as I've explained to you, the massive holes. Speaking of players to bring in, I want to once again show the show from the Irish Mags podcast, where they did again a fantastic show on transfers. I'm going to use them as a reference point. It doesn't mean they're not saying these players are exactly the players that are coming in, this and that, but they provide a really good reference point as to the type of profile players that are going to come in. I'm going to use that as a reference point, and I'm going to add a player that I think would be great for our squad to improve our squad. So we'll take it away with the Irish Mags and with the guy.
He's definitely somebody that they look at. But I do know, like, for me, that's the top targets. But then you work back from that, like, you know, they're looking at there's a young fella Middles where they're centre back.
Oh, sorry, let me back that up. I went too far ahead there. Let me get myself back. All right, let's go.
It's at the stage of the season now where they're scouting multiple players, you know, so it's more of a judgment call based on what you're hearing is what you kind of say they're going to prioritize. But for me, if I was to say their top targets from what I'm getting at the moment, it's Marmadashvili.
So Marmadashvili is an excellent up-and-coming goalkeeper from Valencia. He's about 22, 23 years old. Is an excellent super keeper, an excellent shot stopper, young, hungry, and has a lot of suitors after him.
Which is something I would have brought months ago, but sure, you have people I would have brought Marmadashvili back in September. I mentioned him a couple of times since, and then you have every fucker claiming an exclusive. But you have Marmadashvili, you have Malik Taw, who was the right centre back at AC Milan.
Malik Taw, again, another young special talent, 21, 22 years of age. It will be an excellent addition to our squad. Strong, athletic, powerful player.
Right, you'd have Morgan Gibbs-White. And
so Morgan Gibbs-White is the outstanding player, I think, that was mentioned in here. Morgan Gibbs-White, at his heart, is an attacking midfielder. He can play across the front three, and he can play across the midfield as well. Any part of the midfield, including DM, and is an exceptional talent, exceptional player, and is probably one of the #1 priorities for Newcastle United.
This will probably divide opinion, but if Eddie Nketiah comes available, they'll look at him. Now, I know people will say, he's shit, he's this, he's that, he's the other. But if you look at it, like, he's playing with an Arsenal team that don't really play to his skill set. He's a very aggressive pressing centre forward, good in front of goal. And if he's available relatively cheap, he's definitely somebody that they look at.
Exactly. And Eddie Nketiah. Eddie Nketiah, just like people talk about Billings, they talk about other players that they don't rate. Eddie Nketiah will make a great second choice striker for Newcastle United at an affordable price. Transfermarket.com have him at 35 million euros, which would put him at around 30 to 35 million here for Newcastle United. And as a second choice striker, that is not bad going. And I'm going to use those 4 as a template to build our squad. And I'm going to add, to make people even more happier, Lloyd Kelly. I use Lloyd Kelly because he's a very good left back. He's tall, he's athletic, he's strong, he's got the pace that Dan Burn does not have, and he's very, very good on the ball. And he also comes free because his contract runs out this year. Now, I know it doesn't mean free that we're not going to pay anything for him. We are going to pay, if we were to buy him, we would have to pay a signing on fee and obviously agent fees and all these things, but it's a lot cheaper than him being on a contract and having to pay for that. So that's why I think Lloyd Kelly would be a great signing, added to the fact that, like I said, I think the defense and goalkeeping positions are our #1 priority. So as you guys can see on my screen here, I hope you guys can see it. This is what our squad would look like if we take out the players that I wanted to sell. Obviously, that being Lascelles, Callum Wilson, Sean Longstaff, and Almiron. So this is what a squad will look like without those guys. Even further gaps, you have obviously no backup for Isak, Jacob Murphy, the only backup for Anthony Gordon, a huge drop of him in quality. Anderson backup for Willock, and there's no backup for Tonali. Lewis Miley is the backup for Bruno Gomes. And so you can see that we're short in midfield that way as well. Lewis Hall will be the backup for Dan Burn. Significant drop in quality, and even the current quality needs to be improved on. There's no backup for Botman, and he's out until possibly next January. Shaw, there's no backup for him. And even him, he's fading, he's getting older. We need to upgrade on him. And the only viable backup we have is Trippier and Livramento. Dubravka's not good enough for Pope. So you guys can see where there is huge gaps now should those players be sold. And that's not mentioning the leadership, the experience that those guys have. Now, with the additions that we spoke about, this is what our squad would look like. And this is a type of strength and depth that I've been talking about. So, guys, if you guys can see, let me get back on my own screen. Here we go. We're playing as a 4-3-3 position, and I'm going to talk about style of play in a minute. We'll have Joe Linton in for Barnes, Nketiah for Isak, and we've got Morgan Gibbs-White here in front of Bruno Gomes, but as I said, Morgan Gibbs-White can play across the front three, and he can more than play in the right wing role as well. But I have Morgan Gibbs-White next to Bruno Gomes, also being able to back up Bruno Gomes or Tonali or Willock. But I think he can play with all three of those guys in terms of Bruno and Tonali as well. And I think when I speak about style of play going forward, this will be how Eddie's side are going to go forward. In the defense, Hall will be backing up Kelly. We're buying Hall. We know that. And I think that improves our left side. I'm not saying it's the end point, but it certainly improves our left side. Botman in for Burn. Not that Botman, obviously, Botman is the first choice player, but while he's injured, while he's away, Burn will be left centre back. And once Botman returns, he'll be the person to replace him. Malik Thor, the talented Rossoneri right centre back, will be taken over from Shaw. Livramento will be taken over from Trippier. And Mamardashvili will be eventually the number one choice first goalkeeper for Newcastle United. And you can see real depth into our squad. The other thing I forgot to mention in previously, actually, if I go quickly back, not only is there real depth in quality and in players, look at this. Look at the age difference as well for our squad. So our squad currently in defense, in attack is 27, in midfield is 24, and in defense is 27 average age. Arsenal average age in attack is 24, average age in the midfield is 26, and in defense is 25. Their squad is nearly 2 years younger than us, and it's a similar story for Man City. Our squad in total is aging and getting older, and is lacking in quality. And there's a real drop-off in quality even for the back of players that we have. Newcastle not only need to upgrade players, but need to replace players and need to maintain players. And there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be spent into that, in particular in the defense itself. And so they have to be smart with the movements and the money that they spend. With those transfers, with those 5 players that I've named, when I looked at transferwindow.com, they amount to about roughly £180 million euros. Now, if you guys remember, the money that we gained from, 180 million pounds, 80 million pounds, and remember the 55 million that we'd make from the sales, that will put us back down to 125 million in terms of overall cost over the transfer window, which will give us enough money, I think, left over either for the winter or, as you guys can see, there's a fair gap in midfield. Even with the addition of Morgan Gibbs-White, I think the Newcastle owners might just burst the budget and say, we need another midfielder to complement us. And I think this is the team, when Darren Eales talks about finishing top 6, and I hope the dreams are bigger than just being top 6, because our Ramayan, if you guys remember, our chairman said he wants us to be number 1. But certainly in the next phase, Newcastle for to be top 6, to be winning major trophy, this team, this squad is moving in the right direction. And what else needs to move in the right direction? And I think where Eddie Howe is moving to. And just before I go on to that, actually, I've got Alfie Harrison and Lewis Miley on the side and Yankuba Minte. And we'll talk about the midfield. The owners may blow the budget and buy another midfielder, but I think also in the pre-season coming up, Eddie Howe will certainly be having a very close look at Yankuba Minte and Alfie Harrison to see if they're first team ready. And if they're not, I think that second midfielder will come in, and I think our overall spend may go even higher than that. So I just wanted to add that in. And as I was mentioning, top 6 side in terms of quality, in depth, in reducing our age and increasing our value is the number. Our next thing that Eddie Howe's looking to do is improve our style of play. And what the style of play I think Eddie Howe is heading to is this. It's a 4-2-3-1 formation. Again, the players that I've got in here are the players I think will be there from the first game of the season. I don't think Burn is going to be playing over Botman long term, for instance. what this formation allows us to do with Gomeres and Tonali playing in DM or CM, but playing deeply, especially Gomeres being our deep line playmaker, is it gives us control in possession and the ability to hold the ball together with Burn and Malik Thau, who are very exceptional on the ball. Most of the times, you guys know, Trippier would either go up and it turns into a back three with Kelly, Burn, and Malik Thor. Malik Thor and Kelly having the athleticism and the recovery pace. Dan Burn can stay in the middle, and we can pass. They can pass through the channels onto the midfield to the Gomeres and Tonali, who can take the ball back to goal, and especially Morgan Gibbs-White, who's exceptional at that, can take the ball with his back to goal as well. He can drop in, or as I think Morgan Gibbs-White will be doing, he'll be playing in the number 10 role. And then why I think he'll be playing in the number 10 role is, if you guys remember, in last season, Newcastle were chasing James Maddison. If Newcastle got James Maddison, we would be playing 4-2-3-1 a lot sooner rather than later. What Gibbs-White does with his unique set of skills and ability to play in multiple positions, and his skill on the ball, his passing range, his ability to run with the ball, take the ball back to goal, he makes an excellent number 10 as well as a number 8. And he can take the ball on from Gomeres, or even swap with Gomeres or Tonali at any point, and spread the play to Barnes, to Gordon and Isak, and their pace, their mobility, their deadliness in the front of goal, I think is what packs the goal. When I look at this first team, I think we can more than definitely compete in the top 6. And this is also looking at the depth in our bench, having Joe Linton on the bench, Livramento on the bench, Mamadashvili, Willock, Botman, all those guys coming in shows a real quality and a real improvement going forward. So when Darren Eales is saying we're looking to be top 6, we're looking to compete for major trophies, I think a team like this and in a formation like this, I think this is the right direction going forward. And one of the keys to the transfer window, we talked about buying and selling players, but also the keys is to keeping the likes of Bruno Gomeres and Joe Linton themselves. And I think if Newcastle do that, if Newcastle recruit well and buy well, get the right directors of football in charge as well, I think we can certainly be, with this approach, with this strategy, I think we can certainly be a top 6 side. I think we can certainly compete with the best of them. And we can certainly, most importantly, win trophies on a regular basis. But let me know what you guys think. What players would you bring in? What formation would you play in? Do you think Newcastle's transfer approach should be? How much money should it be should be making? What players should they be selling? Is Eddie Howe the man to take Newcastle over the Rubicon and win trophies for Newcastle United? Who would you have in our directors as our director of football or directors of football? Let me know, guys. Send in your ideas. Send in your thoughts. These are my thoughts. These are my thinkings in terms of Newcastle United going forward, and I certainly think we can do it. It's not set in stone. It can change with new information, with new things coming in. I will come back and revisit this once those things happen, and I will do profiles on different players. Send in your thoughts, then send in your views. I'm really, really keen to hear from you. And until next time, guys, like and subscribe, click that notification bell, and I'll see you next time. Take care, and God bless to you all, guys.